once that was explained to me, it seemed like a no-brainer. And the other thing that's, and this pays to the whole lies and disinformation that's out there. The other thing I found, which I was shocked to find out, is
Johnny, how did you find Carnivore?
so yeah, David, good question. I mean, I've been on a bit of a journey with my health, ever since I kind of entered teens and early 20s. So I was one that suffered a lot with migraines growing up. Um, and by the time I got to sort of mid 20s, late 20s, I was started to play around with my diet, and the first thing I did was remove gluten. Um, and that seemed to help. And it wasn't just migraines, but it was body aches, feeling lethargic. Basically, I felt like I was anemic, and at the age of like 28, I just thought to myself, "What? Why? I should be in the prime of my life here." I wasn't overweight. I had no obvious illness, but I would feel like as soon as I ate a meal, I'd feel bloated. I'd get these migraines all the time, and I was constantly popping ibuprofen, which is not healthy. So um, I started playing around, removed gluten, um, and then I started playing around with intermittent fasting as well, and definitely reap the benefits from that. Which, as you know, is how you always feel on a carnivore diet because you're burning fat for fuel. Um, and then and then obviously I went down the typical route of, right, well, I've got to get more vitamins and minerals. This must be it. And we've been brainwashed. Well, all of that is found in fruits and veg. So I started consuming tons of that and started to reduce sort of red meat and saturated fat, thinking, that is the perceived knowledge out there that will get you healthy. And I felt no change. And in fact, I really went overboard. I mean, I would be making smoothies in the morning with every form of superfood there was. Chia seeds, flax seeds, spirulina. I'd have every conceivable fruit in there. I'd put in spinach. It was just ridiculous. And I felt no better. In fact, I felt bloated after time from all those, you know, toxins and oxalates and lectins and all the rest of it. And then and then I was on YouTube one day because I am a YouTube addict, and I've got a quite a curious mind, and I'm prepared to be quite open-minded and listen to whatever people have to say. And it was Dr. Anthony Chaffee. This might sound a bit odd, but he basically was a YouTube short, and he had his shirt off, and he said, "I haven't eaten a carb in 5 years," and he's got big muscles and ripped abs, and he said, "I haven't eaten um, carbs in 5 years. I have tons of energy. I never get sore from the gym, and he said this. He said, "Fat does not make you fat." And I was like, "Right, well, that really blew my mind." Let me investigate further, and I watched a couple more videos from him, and he goes into the ancestral way of eating, and what we've basically always evolved on, and through adaptation, that's what we're best primed to eat, which is meat and fat. And then I also heard a great interview with Jesse Chappus and from the Ultimate Health podcast, which I've been listening to for years, probably a decade plus. Um, and he interviewed Dr. Bart Kay or Professor Bart Kay, who I'm sure you know who he is, and regular viewers to the channel will know. He just explained everything so well and in such intricate detail. He really, put the science behind it. So I had the sort of ancestral knowledge now from Anthony Chaffee, along with all the marketing BS and the corruption in the food industry and pharma to kind of give it context. And I had this scientific explanation about, our physiology from Bart Hay. So, that weekend I was just armed with all this knowledge, and I said, right, well, I'm going to give this a go because I've tried everything else. I've tried plant-based, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free. I'm from 39 now. Whilst it helped a bit, I still don't feel like I'm in my prime. Um, and so then I've done it. And I tell you, the first 5 days I was buzzing. I was just bouncing off the walls. I had tons of energy. All the aches and pains had gone literally overnight. Uh, this the other thing that I developed was a bit of brain fog, and in recent years, and that just disappeared. I felt really sharp mentally. Um, eh, you know, carnivores out there listening to this, or even if you're new to carnivore, you can, I'm sure, relate to how all your senses are sharpened. You lose some body fat. Um, your skin improves, your eyesight, your hearing, virtually everything improves and gets better. And that was the case for me. I had the carnival flu for a couple of weeks after that initial 5 days, but I was, because I'd experienced those incredible first 5 days. I was quite happy to sit this through and just be patient. And I knew I'd get to the other side of the flu stage. And then so I've been carnival now for 7 or 8 months, and just I'm always keen to shout it from the rooftop and tell people the benefits. And I'm not there to just kind of preach. People do what they want, but I've reaped all the benefits and then some. Yeah,
That's awesome. It just kind of fell into it. And what a difference going from, spending all that time preparing the juices with the
yeah,
chia seeds and everything to just going the 180 degrees the other way.
absolutely. And but you've got to have an open mind. I followed the advice that was out there in the guidance, and you seem to make
Mm.
sense to me. There are nutrients in fruit and veg, but as the likes of Dr. Anthony JV explains, they're not all bioavailable anyway. Secondly, they're laced with all sorts of toxins that, a low grade poison. And at the end of the day, it's just sugar. It's just a carbohydrate. At the end of the day, it gets converted to sugar, spikes your insulin, and then you start putting on weight because you can't burn fat for fuel. So once that was explained to me, it seemed like a no brainer. And the other thing that's, and this pays to the whole lies and disinformation that's out there. The other thing I found, which I was shocked to find out, is all the nutrients that your body needs is in meat. And we're not educated in that regard. We're told, oh, no, meat is your protein there. That'll help build up the broken fibers after a workout or some sporting activity. But it's way more than that. It's got all the nutrients you need in the perfect proportions. Um, and I've always loved eating meat, and that's never caused me any inflammation or anything. Um, so yeah, so once I was given the green light, so to speak, I've not looked back. And yeah, it could not be more different now. Half the time I don't even make breakfast. When I do have a meal, it's quick, it's easy, it's delicious. I can eat till I'm comfortably stuffed, as Dr. Berry would say. Which is what, I used to hate having to always hold back. Like, if I want a meal, I want to eat till I'm fully satisfied, s- borderline stuffed, and ideally take a nap afterwards, like a lion would in the wild. I think that's, as a species, that's how we're supposed to probably eat. But this constant, like, having to discipline yourself to not overeat, and also the other need to have something sweet at the end of it for digestion, have something sugary. It's just so nice to be off that addictive cycle.
It's really interesting you say it like that. Like, it's when you think about it, it makes so much sense that we should be eating this way because we shouldn't have to be managing and holding back the amount of food that we eat, which is what we have to do when we're eating carbs, right? Uh,
Yeah.
like, we should be like every other species where we just eat what we need to feel full, and then we go about doing whatever else we need to do, you know? Food's not entertainment.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
You don't see lions in the wild. You don't see any, you name it, any animal. They eat till they're full and then they stop. And they're not having to, get on a jump on a treadmill or hold back or, and they certainly don't eat the rainbow. They eat what they've always eaten, what's appropriate to their species, and we should be no different. We already know, it's scientific fact, through the fossils and isotopes and data that we have, that we've eaten this way for 2 million years plus. So where's the argument to say, well, no, we should eat the way we've suddenly developed after the agricultural revolution 13,000 years ago? No, no, we should eat like that. Well, really? Because everyone, I mean, doctors, and we understand the notion of adaptation, of evolution. Therefore, there really shouldn't be an argument. any other way. And my dad's a doctor, and he's 83 now, so you can't convince an elderly man who's been a doctor all his life and has a certain way of thinking. But I certainly tried. I spent a full week when he came to visit, every day, just reigniting the argument or the debate, saying, "Look, Dad, look at the Inuits, look at the Maasai, look at the Aboriginals. Look how we've eaten. Um, you don't need carbs for fuel. You don't need fiber. You don't need vitamin C. We can survive. And the reason we're here today is because we've eaten that, meat and fat since the dawn of time. So where's the argument for the need for fiber or the danger of red meat, colon cancer, and you know, it's just not there, is it? So yeah, so for me, it didn't take, and the other thing is, when you're growing up and you're young and you're somewhat naive, you put your trust and you put your faith in institutions such as in the UK, we've got the National Health Service, um, and you trust what comes out of the medical society and doctors, and so you've no reason to really question it. But I feel like I've been on a journey in the sort of last 5, 10 years as I've matured and got into my 30s, whereby I actually question some of the experts, be it in politics and finance and pharma. And I suppose the one thing that hit me, the money rules the world. And I suppose the thing that it surprised me and it didn't surprise me, it was the fact that, yeah, the food industry is just as corrupt as any other industry. And they've been, yeah, the margins to feed you carbs and plants is much higher than it is to feed you meat and animal fat. So once you understand that, you realize why all these studies that are funded by big food, they all point towards eating fruit and veg and not eating the thing that we should eat. It just comes down to money, and it's very sad. But I'm excited now within this sort of small community we have to try and wage a revolution almost. Well, it's definitely like a bottom up, um, not a people's revolt as such, but it's a grassroots movement, isn't it? It's testimonies and case studies of hundreds and thousands, and if not millions at this point, of people on the likes of YouTube and on podcasts saying, "No, look, I've ignored the way they've told us to eat, low fat and avoid meat. It's not got me anywhere. Now I'm on this carnivore diet. I'm losing weight. My mental health's improved. Autoimmune diseases have disappeared. I'm no longer diabetic. I'm no longer obese. Um, I've cancelled surgeries. I'm off my meds. Sleep better. I look better. I feel better. You know, and that's evidence that counts for something. When you see tons and tons and tons of these testimonials, you hope as this develops and grows and expands that, yeah, the medical industry, big pharma, doctors, they can't just keep ignoring this. So these guidelines that are all corrupt to begin with, you would hope they've got to evolve as time
Mm.
goes on.
You would hope so, but, they've been pretty good at turning their back to it so far. Um,
Yeah.
so just on the, getting better, the migraines, had they finished before you started carnivore or, ha did they clear up?
So yeah, they got a bit better when I went gluten free. But I would still get them on occasion, and I would still get the body aches. I'd still feel very lethargic all the time. I was addicted to caffeine in the hope that that would give me energy each day, and it probably wasn't. I'm off caffeine now, obviously, and feel great for that. Um, but there were so yeah, the migraines subsided a bit after I at least removed gluten. But there's so many other foods that act like gluten, um, that would still cause me issues. So and I would feel bloated all the time as well. So yeah, so my health sort of was deteriorating, and then it started to improve a bit on gluten, and then once I went carnivore, it just took off, and it just transformed my life. It really did.
That's awesome. So, day to day, how many times are you eating?
Uh, I'd say it kind of varies. I just go off my hunger signals. Um, Turns perhaps what I've had the night before, whether or not I have breakfast the next day. Um, I'd say I'd say, yeah, between 2 and 3 times. There's no set way. So I might have some eggs and bacon in the morning or something. Might have like a steak around noon, and then I like to have. I make my own beef jerky. Some evenings I like to have something a bit different like that, just almost snack on, um, which is great. But yeah, I'd say there's not ever one fixed way. Sometimes if I feel like I've eaten a bit too much, yeah, I'll just essentially intermittent fast that next morning and skip breakfast. But as you know, I'm sure, like it's so liberating to just eat when you're hungry, and when you're not eating, you're not holding back. You're happy, you're satisfied.
Right, and it's so good when you find yourself in a situation where there's nothing that you can eat, like if you're at a social event or something, and you can just go, "No, I'm good. I'll just wait till I get home." Yeah,
Yeah.
you can fast for as long as you need to without getting hangry, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And in the beginning, like many carnivores transitioning over, I was basically forgetting to eat. I lost like 6 kilos just in I think about 2 weeks. And I'm not like a big guy to begin with. And if anything, I don't like being too skinny, but that just shows how nutrient dense this food is, and how, I always explain it to my wife how, we have these receptors in our brains that turn our hunger signals on and off, dependent on whether we've given our body what it needs in terms of its nutrients. So if you're still hungry after, loaf bread, it's because your body's telling you, no, no, go get me some protein, get me some animal fat, because that's what I want. That's where the nutrients are. And then inevitably, if you keep eating carbs and all the rest of it, you'll keep putting that on as weight, because you know your hunger signals won't turn off. Um, uh, and so, yeah, for me, it's just so easy to eat till I'm full and then just stop.
Nice. So, what's your wife's reaction been to this?
Yeah, I think she was like me, a bit shocked on the whole new bit of knowledge here that we've developed overnight. Oh, the food industry, the farm industry, the medical industry is all corrupt, and they've literally been telling us the opposite since the 70s, 80s. We've literally seen, low fat is being recommended, and yet everything else has gone up in terms of diabetes, heart disease, um, and not to mention all the neurological issues, ADHD, autism, just general feelings of anxiety and depression. I'm sure this is due to, and infertility, and then in later age, Alzheimer's, dementia. But yeah, like me, initially she's like, "What, really? Like fruit and veg is not good, and red meat is good, and bacon's a superfood?" And like me, she was shocked, but she saw the results for herself, and then shortly after, she jumped on board for at least a month initially. She slipped off it, and then she got back on it just recently for a few weeks. Um, but then there was a wedding, and so Jackie's, she can clearly see the benefits through me. Um, I absolutely love meat, and it was not hard 1 second. Although, I used to eat chocolate every single day, just in small amounts, but I felt I was a bit of a chocoholic. But I've not found it hard to come off it. But I think maybe my wife Jackie's found, because definitely seen the benefits. She was losing like a pound a day on average on the diet, which most people um do. Um, but yeah, owing to life's various ups and downs, she hasn't quite been able to stay on it. But we'll keep we'll keep at it, and the kids. I've got three little ones, and whilst I can't, the twins are 4 years old, boy and girl, who are four, and the eldest is seven. She's a girl. Um, Now I can't just change their diet into 100% carnivore diet overnight. But what I am doing is ensuring that each and every day they get plenty of meat, and if possible some eggs, and that I try and limit the amount of sugar. Like any good parent. But before I would limit their sugar, but I wouldn't necessarily push the meat. Now I have a saying in our household, which is, if you want your treat, you got to eat your meat, and it works. They got a taste for, even if it's just a bit of ham or some scrambled eggs, something when they come home from school that is healthy and nutrient dense. Then I'm happy, and then I'm like, okay, now you can have that more carby meal, because it's a start, isn't it? Once they get older and I can educate them better and advise them, hopefully they'll be more carnivore than they are now. But
And the
baby
great
steps.
thing about that approach is that because they're eating the protein and fat first, they'll be less likely to binge like crazy on the treat at the end, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So, how about friends? Have they noticed?
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I've got a few friends who have been like, "John, this is incredible. Tell us more," you know. And most of my friends are quite open-minded, and um, I've explained it the way I've heard it, and I've shared plenty of links to YouTube and what have you. And for the most part, um, they've been, yeah, very supportive. They can see that I'm thriving, and yeah, some of them have been trying it. They're probably more steering towards keto at this stage, if I was to define it. Um, and then there's other people, some are doctors who I remember I shared a Dr. Anthony Chaffee video where he gave that speech about, plants are trying to kill you. It's almost become famous now. And this doctor friend of mine, she wrote back, she was like, "Nah, he must be getting paid to say that. Like, it can't be true." And and I tried to sort of share more links and be like, "Yeah, but we have evolved like this, and it can't be that unhealthy, or we wouldn't be here today." And how do you explain the Inuits? There's no vegetation up in North Pole, South Pole. Um, but it's funny how some people are just so ingrained in their belief system. And certainly doctors, they've been educated in this way, they've trained and gone to med school for maybe as long as a decade. So it's hard to convince people and open their eyes, but you just gotta, I think, focus on yourself, focus on getting your own health together, and then slowly but surely, people will stop and notice, and they'll say, "Oh, what are you doing different to what I'm doing?" Because most people in your 30s start to slow down and start getting achy and start putting a bit of weight on. And I've told work colleagues as well, and some of my work colleagues within my team are slightly older, and I think they've maybe gone through the whole, well, they've certainly lived through the Atkins uh, episode period. I think it was in the 90s, wasn't it? Because they're like 50s, 60s, and so they've actually taken more of an interest. Um, and they've, yeah, a couple of them have given it a go, and they've seen benefits as well. So yeah, it's a mixed response really from my cohort of friends and family, but everyone's very supportive, and everyone I think recognizes that I'm 39 now. I do what I want, and they trust that I've done my research, and I'm, you know not imposing it on anyone else.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. So if a friend did come to you and say, "Look, Johnny, how do I get started with this? You know, I'm skeptical, but I've seen your results, so I'm willing to give it 90 days. What should I do?" What would you tell them?
Yeah, well, I think 90 days is a good time frame as well. You need to adapt. Your body's been eating a certain way for the majority, if not your whole life. So you need to give it time. And then I'd say, start off slow. Start removing the processed foods. The foods we all agree are bad. Even the vegan lobby will agree, chocolate and candy is bad. So start with removing them and just start introducing, you know, bigger proportion of meat on your plate as opposed to carbs. Right now we go like a third, don't we? Like third of fruit, third of veg, and then you got your carb maybe, and then potatoes and rice, and then you got your meat. Try just doing away with start keto basically. Do away with the rice and potatoes. Have veg and meat, and then slowly increase the meat and reduce the veg, and see how you feel. Definitely leave out the sugary processed stuff, and see how you feel. I guarantee anyone who goes on this diet will start to feel better, less bloated, more energy, and then slowly. But the key thing is obviously to get into ketosis. So you can't just keep up those veggies. You need to reduce that right down to maybe 50 grams a day at most. And then you'll start feeling the benefits, and then you won't need any more convincing than that. I think you will see your physical and mental health transform, um, and then you'll be shouting it from the rooftops. I'm so sure of that. There's no,
Yeah.
like I do, like you go on YouTube and there's there's plenty of people who you interview who this community of doctors and surgeons and just general advocates of the carnivore diet. They interview ex-vegans and ex-vegetarians and ex-plant-based advocates who are really doing that thing for years and have come over to this side. Yet you never see the other way around. You never see a carnivore. I mean, Paul Saladino is maybe the one person I can speak of who's reintroduced fruits. Literally everybody, no one else I've ever heard of. And I've been, I was addicted to YouTube before, but now I spend my life on this thing, researching carnivore, listening to all different perspectives, and I've never heard of anyone go the other way. Oh no, carnivore, it didn't work out. So I've gone back to fruit and veg. Everyone feels cracking on this thing, and everyone sticks at it. That's the thing. It's not a fad diet. The people like, was it Diana Spencer and Rick Rodriguez, who I know you've had on. These people have been doing it for decades. You've been doing it for many many years. So it's not like you feel great for a few months, a year, and then and then it's hard and you slip off it, or your health deteriorates. It's the absolute opposite. So yeah, I think just get through the flu stage. It is a bit tough. You do get low energy. You get maybe a bit lightheaded. You might get the odd migraine. But the way I got through it was just continually watching videos produced by the likes of yourself and others, where I would just hear such great stories of how other people were thriving. And I knew, okay, there's light at the end of this carnivore flu tunnel. Couple weeks, maybe 3 weeks max, and then you're away. So yeah, I'd say 90 days is a good time frame to give it.
Yeah, that's really good advice. So Johnny, do you have any way to reach out? Do you have any social media?
Yeah, so I just started a YouTube channel. I've literally got the one
Oh,
video there. It's 6 month update on how I've been doing on the carnivore diet. So if anyone's interested,
mm,
go to Johnny Does Carnivore. That's the name of the YouTube channel.
right.
Yeah, and hit like and subscribe. I I'm constantly thinking of new content to make, and so I'll be making those in due course. I live a bit of a busy
Mm.
life, got the kids, got a full-time job. I'm like a reservist part-time in my free time, and I do like the odd round of golf, so I just haven't got around to making more videos, but I will. And I'd love
Right.
people to join me on the journey and subscribe, and that'd be great.
Awesome. Well, I'll link to your channel below.
Yeah.
Johnny, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. Really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. It's been an honor and a privilege. Cheers.